Hey guys, did you know that there are 140 craftable weapons in Destiny 2, but only about a third of them are even worth crafting? Today, I am going to go over the best craftable weapons to show you which perks you should be looking for, as well as give you multiple different options so you can decide which one suits your playstyle the most. If you guys need any help farming these weapons, then join my Discord server since we are constantly organizing multiple activities such as raid farms, grandmasters, and even master crota completions. No experience required. Also, a quick note, I will be showcasing these weapons in the legendary campaign, that way you guys can see how these weapons handle in harder content. Starting off with auto rifles, we have Rufus's Fury. This is a very popular auto rifle because it synergizes extremely well with the Strand subclass thanks to Demolitionist and Hatchling. Demolitionist will provide you with grenade energy, while Hatchling spawns threadlings to deal with your enemies. The other options are Rewind rounds, Frenzy, and Rewind rounds with target lock. Frenzy is more balanced and designed for all kinds of gameplay, while target lock is purely endgame content and you need to have extremely good aim because remember that with target lock you cannot miss a single shot or else it will reset the buff. Next up we have Amit AR2. This is a solar auto rifle that can roll with Envious Assassin and Incandescent, which synergizes extremely well with the solar subclass. With Envious, you will constantly overflow your mag to sometimes even over 100 bullets, while Incandescent spreads Scorch, creating ignitions once in a while. For harder content, I suggest going with Triple Tap instead of Envious Assassin. Lastly, we have Sweet Sorrow, which I thought I mentioned because honestly, this is a very good arc auto rifle that can roll with stats for all and one for all, giving you an easy 35% damage boost as well as all the stat boosts that come with the stats for all. It also has one of the best origin traits in the game that can give you up to 30 resilience and 15 damage reduction when getting kills. Moving on, we have bows, and honestly, the only bow that's absolutely worth crafting is Tyranny of Heavens. This bow is seriously so fun to use with Dragonfly and Incandescent. A single headshot will make everything blow up and scorch enemies at the same time. This season, you can also combine it with Ignitions for even more explosions. This is my go-to in Grandmasters when I am not using an exotic bow. Next up, we have hand cannons, and if you haven't crafted Zaoli's Bane yet, then I highly suggest you start farming King's Fall because this is basically a legendary sunshot which synergizes extremely well with the solar subclass since it comes with explosive payload and incandescent, making it an ad-clear monster that can also kill enemies from a good distance. Moving on, we have pulse rifles. And the issue with them is that 1. They are mainly a PvP weapon, and 2. When it comes to PvE, there are simply so many better options. But if you really want to run a pulse rifle in PvE, then I would either recommend Chattering Bone with Kill Clip and Kinetic Tremors, the BXR with Demolitionist and Incandescent, or Insidious with Dragonfly and One for All, since Dragonfly's explosion can proc One for All, and One for All increases Dragonfly's explosion's damage, so it's a nice synergy. Chattering Bone is also a very well balanced pulse rifle because Kill Clip helps you with clearing easy air enemies, while Kinetic Tremors takes care of the tougher ones. Oversoul Edict is the last pulse rifle I would recommend for easy to mid content, since it can roll with Demolitionist or Enlightened Light with Fault Shot. It also has a very fun origin trait that makes enemies explode after you get a melee kill. Next up, we have Scout Rifles, and in here, Doom of Chelchis is a really fun and versatile scout with multiple good perk combinations. For example, Explosive Payload and Frenzy is an overall good pick for all kinds of content. Explosive Payload and One for All is also extremely good as long as you're able to proc it. I mean, you can even go for Dragonfly and Firefly for the memes and ad clear. Transfiguration, even though it's a 150 scout rifle, which is not that great, it can also roll with double damage perks, that being Rampage and Kinetic Tremors, which is a really nice roll for easier content. If you're doing endgame activities such as Grandmaster, then switching out Rampage for rewind rounds is the way to go. Purely for easier content, we have Tarnished Metal, and this is an Arc Scout rifle that you can craft with Volt Shot for that extra arc synergy, and even shoot to loot with explosive payload if you like that playstyle. Volt Shot is not what it used to be back in the day, but it's still a fun perk and easy to mid content. Next up, we have Sidearms. In here, there is two weapons that you might want to consider if you like using sidearms. Drang with Incandescent and Wellspring, and Brigand's Law with Feeding Frenzy and Volt Shot. Drang is designed to be used with the Solar subclass, and with Wellspring it actually ends up providing a solid amount of ability energy. On the other hand, Brigand's Law is the arc counterpart with Volt Shot. Both are seriously fun to use and incredibly strong close range and easy to mid content. Moving on, we have submachine guns, and there is actually a couple of good ones. Starting off with the basic one that 92% of players have, Osteostriga. This is a monster when it comes to ad clearing and easy to mid content. It does start to struggle in harder content, but it's still usable. Osteostriga is also well known for its synergy with Necrotic Grip's Warlock, providing even more ad clear potential. Callus Minitool is next on the list, and this is also an incredibly popular submachine gun. It can be crafted with Incandescent and Unrelenting, which means that you will not only create explosions that spread out Scorch, but also get healed at the same time, making this a very good gun for solo flawless runs on the Solar subclass. If you don't need the extra healing, then you can always use Grave Robber or Threat Detector instead. Next on the list, we have the Aikilos SMG, and this one is the arc counterpart since it can roll with Volt Shot and Feeding Frenzy. Although, like I've mentioned, Volt Shot did take a heavy hit with the nerfs a while back, but it's still a very fun perk for easier content. However, don't sleep on Surrounded or Frenzy if you like to play more aggressive. Those perks also go really well with the SMG playstyle. If you don't have the Aikilos SMG, because to be honest, it's a pretty tough one to get, then Subjunctive with Subsistence, One for All or Threat Detector combined with Volt Shot or Stats for All, it's honestly just as good and much easier to get this season. Next up, we have special ammo weapons, and we are starting with a good one, Fusion Rifles. Most of the craftable fusion rifles are actually pretty good. However, if you want the absolute best ones, then there's 3 fusion rifles that you will want to craft. Scatter Signal is a strand fusion rifle mainly used for damaging bosses. However, this thing can also melt champions or any tougher opponent in harder content. The perks that you want are Overflow and Control Burst. Slice is also a viable option, but I personally wouldn't recommend it since enemies will most likely die very quickly from the weapon, and that is even if you remember to use your class ability beforehand. Next up, we also have the Eremite, which is a slow firing fusion rifle that hits like a truck thanks to Control Burst and Envious Assassin overflowing the mag. This is once again mainly used for boss DPSing, and since it's a solar fusion rifle, it goes very nicely with Apex Predator, Galahorn, or even Dragon's Breath because you can share the triple solar surges. The cool thing about Eremite is that you can also craft it with Reservoir Burst for ad clear and even Lead from Gold for better ammo economy in something like Day 1 raids or harder content. Lastly, we have a fusion rifle mainly used for its utility, Deliverance. This fusion can be crafted with Demolitionist and Chill Clip, making it a monster at getting your grenade back while freezing enemies and countering champions. A lot of people dislike it since it's a precision frame which has quite a long charge time. But if you can get over that and you don't have Riptide, then it's absolutely worth crafting. Moving on, we have the Ad Clear Kings, that being grenade launchers and specifically waveframe grenade launchers. For Barons with Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction has been used since the first day that it came out, and it's still being used by many on daily basis, especially now that it has become more available through Onslaught. You can take this waveframe into any kind of content that needs a solid weapon for ad clear. And we can't forget about the Soul Drinker origin trait that will heal you on reload based on the number of hits. This comes in really clutch when you need to stay alive. Our second waveframe is Explosive Personality, and this is Forbearance Solar counterpart, but slightly worse. You want autoloading with One for All, or you can also go with Stats for All and One for All if you like to spam your grenade launcher. One thing worth mentioning is that Explosive Personality comes with the Land Tank origin trait, which is one of the better ones in the game. On kills, this trait will provide you with 10 resilience and 5% damage reduction per stack, up to a maximum of 3 stacks. Next up on the list, we have shotguns, and these are kind of tough because for some players you could never craft them and be alright, while for others it's a huge game changer. That is why I am going to split them into 3 sections. First of all, we have the 1-2 punch shotguns used in all melee builds such as Strand Titan and Arc Hunter. And here we have 3 solid options: Wastelander, Swordbreaker, and the Aikilos shotgun. I would personally recommend getting Wastelander since it's somewhat simple to get and you can craft it with lead from gold, which the other 2 cannot. Don't sleep on the Aikilos shotgun because it can literally be crafted with all the good damage perk that a shotgun could possibly have, making it extremely versatile. Finally, Swordbreaker is also a good option if you want the synergy that it has with the Strand subclass. Alright, next up we have pellet shotguns, and you can use these for double pellet shotgun swapping, which is a very good damage rotation for whoever is running Tractor Cannon or Galahorn. And here, once again, you can also use the Wastelander, but this time with Perpetual Motion and Vorpal. We want that handling to be as high as possible. The second pellet shotgun that's used in this rotation is Without Remorse, and for this one you want Threat Detector with Vorpal. The cool thing about pellet shotguns is that you do not need to hit headshots with them, making them easier to use when compared to slug shotguns. And since we are on the topic of slug shotguns, here are the 2 slugs that you would want to use in the same rotation, but this time you have to aim at the enemy's crit spot. For the first shotgun, you want to use Heritage with Reconstruction and Recombination. For the second shotgun, we have Nessus Oblation, and for this one we are going to use Reconstruction, but this time with Vorpal. I personally suggest sticking with pellet shotguns since they are easier to use, but slugs are also very good against bosses with high crit multipliers like Kali. Moving on, we have sniper rifles, and there's actually 4 of them which are worth crafting. Starting off with the newest one, Whisper of the Worm. Ever since the sniper buffs, this sniper has been shredding bosses with big crit hitboxes like Oryx. And now that it's craftable, people have started using it even more often. You definitely want field prep on this sniper, the extra reserves are always nice, and the faster reload comes in handy if you miss a shot. Next up, we have Supremacy, and this is one of the best, if not the best legendary sniper rifle in the game. It has some very good rolls such as rewind rounds and kinetic tremors, or even rewind rounds with 4th time the charm, allowing you to shoot for a ridiculous amount of time without reloading. However, this is more of a meme perk combination. You want to stick with kinetic tremors, which activates with only 2 shots of the sniper. Our next sniper is Succession, and this is overall a very versatile sniper which rolls with Reconstruction and damage perks such as Recombination and Firing Line. Reconstruction by itself already puts this sniper in a high tier. Recombination adds some insane burst damage since it basically doubles the damage of your next shot, allowing you to burst down beefy targets even in endgame content. For our last sniper, we have the Aikilos sniper, and you can craft this one with 4th time the charm, with Focus Fury, allowing you for some very nice sustained damage when you run out of heavy ammo. Bonus points for the sniper being Solar since it can take advantage of Solar Surge mods. Moving on, we have Trace rifles, and these used to be much more popular back then when double special was a more viable option. But even now, they are still a solid weapon for all kinds of content since they still have a very good ammo economy. For trace rifles, we basically have three main ones, and each corresponds to a specific subclass. For example, Acacia's Dejection with Reconstruction and Incandescent synergizes really well with the Solar subclass. Not to mention that it has a very good Origin trait that can increase your damage by 10% against Tormentors and Lucent Hive if you're running two other weapons with that trait. Next up, Hollow Denial, on the other hand, is the Void counterpart, which you want to craft with Lead from Gold and Killing Tally for the extra add clear potential, or Repulsor Brace for the Void overshields if you want even more synergy with the Void subclass. Our last trace rifle is Path of Least Resistance, and you can craft it with perks such as Stats for All and Wall Shot, Stats for All with One for All, or even Shoot to Loot if you like to pick up ammo and orbs of power from a distance. It also has Subsistence, which is nice in easier content where you're able to get more kills. Next up, we have our weapons that use heavy ammo. Starting off with grenade launchers, there is pretty much only one grenade launcher that you might want to consider crafting, and that's Corax's Distress, which just like with Rufus's Fury, it has a very good synergy with the Strand subclass because it can be crafted with Demolitionist, Reconstruction, or Chain Reaction with Hatchling. These are all very nice add clear combos if that's something that you're going for. If you want a more damage focused role, then Reconstruction with Surrounded is also a decent boss DPSing setup as long as you can proc it. Linear fusion rifles are next on the list, and in here we are starting off with the most recent one, that being Doomed Petitioner, which is absolutely a beast since it has so many good perks such as Reconstruction and Precision Instruments, which is basically a better focused Fury. Petitioner also comes with the Surrounded perk for those boss fights where you might be surrounded. Next up, we have Briars, which is the Solar counterpart, and this is the linear that kind of introduced us to the whole Surrounded meta, because this was the first linear to roll with that perk. With Briars, you want to either go with the Rewind Rounds and Surrounded, or Focused Fury. You can also use Reconstruction if you're not too confident in your aim. The problem here is that Doom Petitioner has Precision Instruments, which is straight up better than Focus Fury. However, Briars does have the advantage when DPSing Tormentors or Lucent Hive thanks to its Origin trait, giving it a 10% damage boost when using 3 weapons with the same trait. The other time you would want to use Briars is if you want to match Solar Surges with your energy weapon. Our final linear is Cataclysmic, and this is basically the solo player king of linears. It's not a burst linear, which means you're going to be much more accurate from longer distances. It also comes with Bait and Switch for the very good damage increase, and the ideal perks are 4th time the charm with Bait and Switch. Moving on, we are entering machine gun territory, and in here we are starting off with what a lot of people consider the best machine gun in the entire game, Commemoration. Specifically, Commemoration with Reconstruction and Killing Tally, allowing you to overfill your mag up to 150 bullets, and since Reconstruction slowly reloads the mag even when you have your weapon out, this allows you to make use of Killing Tally for a very long time. Subsistence is also a nice perk if you plan on cleaning a lot of the ads with Commemoration. Our second machine gun is what people call the Arc Commemoration. Song of Iruyut can also roll with Reconstruction and Sword Logic. Sword Logic is quite underrated in my opinion, because what a lot of people don't realize is that once you activate the higher tier buff, you can infinitely renew it by killing lower tier enemies such as red bars. So for example, if I kill an orange bar, this gives me 2 stacks of Sword Logic, which is a 25% damage increase. This buff can be extended by any combatant, that includes red bars. So overall, this is seriously a nice perk to have. Our last machine gun is more of a DPS one, since it can be used to burst down targets and even damage bosses if you really want to. Retrofit Escapade can roll with 4th time the charm and target lock, making it a monster when fully ramped up. You just got to be careful because it eats up through ammo extremely quick, so you might want to tap your trigger with it. Next up, we have rocket launchers, and there is one and only one rocket launcher that you truly must have, that being Apex Predator. This rocket launcher has it all. In the third column, you want reconstruction, but in the fourth column, there's so many good options. For example, bait and switch and explosive light are both fantastic perks that you will use everywhere. It also has surrounded for those times when there might be enemies around, and even bipod to spam your rockets with Galahorn in Grandmasters or any other content. Lastly, on our long list, we have swords, and there is one sword that stands atop the other ones for DPS. That is Bequest with Relentless Strikes and Surrounded. This sword comes with 70 impact, which is extremely good for an adaptive sword, and this is the main reason why it's so strong. You can also go Vorpal if there are no mobs around to proc Surrounded. The other swords that are worth mentioning and running are the class-specific swords such as Throne Cleaver for Titans, Gold Tusk for Hunters, and Death Razor for Warlocks. With Throne Cleaver, you can either go with Tyrus Blade or Unrelenting with Incandescent for Clear, and for DPS you instead want Surrounded, but you can also go with Vorpal. Gold Tusk is the Hunter sword, and this one is a lot riskier to use, since in order to maximize damage, you need to do the aerial combo, which is quite risky and hard to do on some bosses. For this sword, you want Relentless Strikes with Whirlwind Blade. Lastly, Death Razor is the Warlock sword, and this is a much safer option, which you also want with the exact same perks, meaning Relentless Strikes and Whirlwind Blade. And that is all 49 weapons worth crafting in Destiny 2. If you found this video helpful, then the only thing I ask you is to drop a like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Huge shout out to the Patreon members and have a wonderful rest of your day.